You're listening to Finding Your Future in Food Systems.
Welcome to the North American Food Systems Network. I'm Kim Hines, one of the co-directors of NAFSN, and I'm very glad to be with you here today. I'm joining you this evening from Prince Edward Island in the Maritimes of Canada. The North American Food Systems Network, which we call NAFSN, is a professional association of people working to strengthen local and regional food systems. We encourage you to join NAFSN if you value a diverse, well-informed, place-based workforce at the helm of this critical change work. We're hosting this special edition of Finding Your Future in Food Systems to engage new and emerging professional audiences interested in the dynamic intersections of food systems, sustainability, and hospitality sector work. We also want to acknowledge this. Many of the organizations and agencies that do the work of strengthening their local and regional food systems are under duress. Funding cuts to agriculture, support services, food access programs, and sustainability initiatives threaten our professions and America's overall food security. It is with determination that we continue to host this series so that more and more people understand how essential these roles are to the vitality of local economies, the health of communities, and the responsibility of care of Earth's natural resources. Now, I'd like to introduce to you the co-hosts of this episode, Aya Otorova and Nora Laureano, both students at Cornell University.
Thanks, Kim, and thank you all for joining us for this special episode of Finding Your Future in Food Systems. For those of you tuning in for the first time, this series is produced and hosted by students to help emerging professionals and others navigate the complexity of career opportunities in sustainable food systems work. My name is Aya. I'm a second-year hotel administration major at Cornell University and a student staff member at NAFSN. I'm excited to produce this episode because these are topics that we cover in our food and beverage classes at the hotel school, and I'm eager to learn more from professionals who work on food waste and hospitality-related sustainability. I'm joined today by my fellow Cornell student, Nora Laureano. I'll turn it over to Nora to introduce herself.
Hi there. Thank you for helping pull this all together, Aya. My name is Nora. I'm a second year hotel administration major at Cornell University, and I have the pleasure of serving as the VP of Programming for Mosaic Hospitality Association. I'm currently pursuing a career in event management and am specifically interested in reducing food waste within large-scale events.
It's great to be here with Kim, our speakers, and everyone in attendance. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared with all registrants by email after post-production. Before we get started, we'd like to sincerely thank NAFSN sponsors this year: Grapevine, Local Food Marketing, Roots of Change, Harrisdale Homestead, and Cornell Chapter of Manners.
We'd also like to shout out the Cornell chapter of the Mosaic Hospitality Association, dedicated to preparing the next generation of hospitality leaders. In fact, our Mosaic student chapter is hosting a watch party for this event right now on campus. Thank you so much for being with us. It's great to see so many people in attendance, and we encourage you to keep your video on if you choose. For our speakers, to have a better understanding of who is present with us today, please add to the chat your name, your location, and areas of interest in food systems, sustainability, and hospitality. NAFSN is all about professional networking, so please take advantage of this opportunity to meet and connect with others through the chat today. Throughout the webinar, we'd also like to ask you to write your questions of our guest speakers in the chat. I will curate these questions for you during several Q&A sessions.
NAFSN is headquartered in Ithaca, New York, which is located on the traditional homelands of the Garsztka of the Cayuga Nation.
We have two guest speakers here with us today, Allie Hines and Ann Garsztka of the World Wildlife Fund. Allie and Ann both work on WWF's food loss and waste team, including the initiative called Hotel Kitchen. It is a pleasure to meet you both, and we're excited to get started.
Allie Hines is the Senior Program Officer of WWF's Circular Food Future Global Initiative, which aims to help governments set and achieve a 50% reduction in food waste while reducing food losses in the supply chain through the Sustainable Development Goal 12.3. In this role, Allie coordinates across the WWF network to support food loss and waste programs and initiative acceleration. Upon joining WWF in 2019, Allie helped coordinate freshwater and food initiatives, strengthening cross-cutting work and leveraging collaborative platforms. Allie previously worked in communications for the National Farmers Market Coalition and as a project coordinator for local food initiatives in Augusta, Georgia. She received her bachelor's in communication studies from the University in Georgia and has facilitation and project management certifications.
Ann Garsztka is a Senior Program Officer for Circular Supply Chain Business Engagement for the Food Loss and Waste Team. She supports private and public sector stakeholders to work towards a more circular food supply chain. Specifically, project management, business engagement, and communications surrounding voluntary agreement programs, including the Pacific Coast Food Waste Commitment and the U.S. Food Waste Pact. Her work includes business covenants to work pre-competitively towards shared food waste reduction goals through sector summits, working groups, and pilot projects. Ann earned an undergraduate degree from George Washington in international politics, an MBA from the Middlebury Institute of International Studies and International Business, and completed non-degree graduate studies through Harvard University's Division of Continuing Education with a focus in sustainable food systems.
Together, they will help us better understand Hotel Kitchen. Without further ado, Ann and Allie, please take it away.
Thank you guys so much. I can tell from the intro that we're in the right place with the right people. So give me a second here to share screen. We'll get it going. Are you guys seeing my screen? Amazing. All right. So thanks again to Aya and Nora for steering the ship today, and to everyone here for allowing Ann and I to really have some space to share a little bit about WWF, our work in the hospitality sector through Hotel Kitchen Toolkit and partnerships, and even a little bit about ourselves. I think we'll have a good time. Now, I wanted to start us with a question that sometimes we get asked, which is, why does WWF, as this international conservation organization, work on food loss and waste? Well, I'd like us to consider WWF's mission first, which is to build a future in which people live in harmony with nature. And I'm going to take the words from a WWF leader who I think sums it up really well. He says, "There is no conservation without people, and there is no conservation or people without food." And WWF can't achieve our mission if we don't transform food and agricultural systems, and addressing food loss and waste is part of that equation. What I have here is every 2 years, WWF publishes its Living Planet report. This one was the 2024 report, and it's really a comprehensive analysis of Earth's overall health, assessing biodiversity and then the impact of human activity on it. What I want to really elevate here within the main findings from the 2024 report is that food production is one of the main drivers of nature's decline. And so to break that down a little bit more, food production is the leading cause of deforestation and habitat loss, 70% of freshwater use, and it equates to about a quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions. All of this is true, and yet 30 to 40% of all food produced is never eaten. And producing food that ultimately goes to waste takes up a land area larger than China, has a 1 trillion cost to society globally, and leaves 1 billion meals off of plates and out of bellies each day. That's using more than a fourth of that available fresh water annually, and it's producing 4 times the emissions of the global airline industry. So a lot of challenge, but opportunity in that. And WWF works on food loss and waste because wasting less food is one of the simplest ways to help the planet and feed more people without placing more burdens on nature. So while food loss and waste is a real global issue, it's also one of the biggest chances we have to create environmental, social, and economic wins together. And this is a map representing the WWF network offices that currently implement food loss and waste projects. There's about 80 WWF offices worldwide, and the US team is the largest and one of the founding food loss and waste offices in our network. We're a team of 9, and our work streams include, and this sounds really busy as I say it, a circular supply chain team that leads the US Food Waste Pact and works with corporates, including our hospitality partners, and is on that team, a farms team addressing food loss, a policy and communication or community education team, that's our Food Waste Warriors Schools program, a national awareness and composting campaign team, and then we house our global coordinating team, which I'm a part of. Our team is working to transform sectors where we see potential to make the biggest impact. And that brings us to our conversation today, which I'm really excited about. We have a long history of collaborating with the hospitality industry. And so I'm going to pass it over to Anne now to speak to that work. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie and Aya and Daniela and everyone for being here and for coming to learn a bit more about this. Allie, yes, perfect, thank you. WWF has a long history of working in hospitality, and it is truly a collaborative effort with hotel companies, convention centers, planners, venues, because everybody definitely has a part to play. And I think this is one of the big learnings I want to sort of open with is that while a hotel might like to take action, they need to do it in conjunction with their event planner. They need to go do it in conjunction with the clients. And so to solve food waste in hospitality, it does require a collaborative approach and a willingness to listen to the priorities and opportunities that other parties bring to bear, which is why Hotel Kitchen really tries to lean into the different needs of all of these different parties to provide resources and perspectives that make sense to the roles that people inhabit within the hospitality sector. And so if you want to go into the next slide, we can take a look at some of that. Well, stay here for a second before we go to the next slide. It is designed to be a one-stop resource. So if you work in a hotel kitchen or you have a role that plays into what happens in a hotel kitchen, this is really meant to be a one-stop resource. And it's constantly growing, it's constantly evolving because what we know about the management of food waste, the technologies available for managing food waste are constantly changing. And so there's a constant effort to keep this fresh and to bring new and innovative ideas, new and innovative approaches. One of you mentioned in your introduction about being focused on low waste events, right? For the most part, that was more of a recent focus here within Hotel Kitchen that's going to be coming online. Historically, it's been more of just standard operating procedures in terms of addressing food waste. So there's just a constant need to be working toward new ideas and new solutions. So ideally, it's a one-stop resource, but it doesn't mean it's the only place to go for resources. If you could go on to the next slide, I think this is where I wanted to highlight about providing the resources based on where people sit in their roles. I mean, I'm sure many of you are going to be considering different roles within the hospitality sector. And so this information may not apply to you, but it may be relevant to a peer, to a coworker, to a partner. And it's, again, that one-stop resource where you can go and learn and amplify what's available. So the challenges that a corporate leader faces, who's responsible for the P&L of the operation, who's responsible for the management of staff, labor costs, procurement costs, has very different needs and challenges than the operational leadership who is training the staff in the kitchen, who's making decisions around meal planning, who's looking to partner with sourcing. Again, different challenges, although trying to and ideally aligning on the same goal. And then the last one, obviously a little bit even more complex because you're dealing with meetings and events that have clients, that have planners, that have experience goals, guest experience goals. And so the hotel kitchen's designed to really provide what everyone needs in a way that it makes sense to them and aligns to their business objectives. If you could go to the next slide. Thanks. This slide just lists out some of the examples of some of the resources, and hopefully some of you have poked around here at some point in time to see what these are. But there are operational guides and best practices, things that will really help you just break the problem down. I think you guys have probably been in hotels, worked in hotels. There's a very special way to do things. Brands have guidelines, hotel sites, locations have guidelines. These are meant to augment and supplement those so that people can bring the best of what we know around food waste into the best of the operations that make that brand experience, that hotel experience, exactly what they would like it to be. They're also meant to be kind of off the shelf. So some of the back of house posters, huddle cards, sample buffet menus, again, meant to be starters to get people with a very clear way to figure out how to bring in the solutions to their operations where it makes sense. And then finally, case studies. It's always great to have an inspirational story. It's always great to have something to relate to and to connect to, because sometimes you're like, I don't know where to go, but you see a hotel of a similar size or a similar style that's already doing it, and you can see yourself in their shoes. And so case studies and storytelling are a key part of the food waste effort, because it's as much as we're talking about it, not everybody talks about it. And so the storytelling component's really key to inspire folks to take action. Could we go to the next slide?
And I think that was your last one.
Okay, then I'm going to pass it back.
And we're good. So what we wanted to leave you guys with is really a case study, a real life example, and we're spotlighting our work in Baja. And so in 2024, WWF catalyzed a coalition of Mexican-based partners to create this zero food waste initiative in Baja California Sur, Mexico. If any of you have been lucky enough to be in Baja California, you might recognize that there's two realities that are a little bit at odds with one another. It's an idyllic global tourist destination known for its beaches, and it's also super climate vulnerable and food and waste insecure. And part of that is its geographical separation from the mainland. And so here, tourism is the state's key economic driver, and yet hotels and restaurants are the second largest generators of the state's overall food waste. And so knowing this, in its first year, the initiative conducted food waste pilots with two champion hotels, Puerto Cortez and El Ganzo. The pilots focused on measuring food waste, engaging staff, and implementing practical solutions to cut the waste and improve sustainability. And highlighting a few of the results from that first year include a 15% waste reduction, 11.64 emissions reduction, and then a return on investment within a year. There are some other local wins, including media and podcast engagement, hosting workshops and events with local policymakers and hotel associations, and then food loss and waste being included in the latest municipal development plan, because we know that policies need to be in place to really help move and drive the sector. And so within this first year, the pilots did reveal a clear need of building more local capacity to lead and sustain the program, simplify this method to plot and see where things are in the times. And that's where we're at now with phase 2, where we're redeveloping the program to contextualize those key critical elements of Hotel Kitchen Toolkit and other sustainable hospitality resources. And by the end of 2026, we'll engage at least 3 more properties in Baja. Now, there's a chance that this video that I'm sharing, I didn't share audio, so we'll see. But this is a video that features our pilot hotels from that first year. It's Spanish spoken with English subtitles. So I'm going to be playing it, and I'll see if there are thumbs up if you can hear it, or I'll reshare it.
Baja California Sur es un territorio generoso, lleno de riqueza natural, cultural y gastronómica. Hoy, más de 37.500 toneladas de alimentos comestibles terminan en la basura cada año solo en el sector de servicios alimentarios. Esto equivale a 100.000 kilos de comida desperdiciada cada día. Es así como nace BCS Sin Desperdicio de Alimentos, un movimiento para cambiar la forma en que producimos, servimos y consumimos los alimentos en hoteles, restaurantes y hogares. Esto es un proyecto colaborativo que involucra diagnósticos técnicos para repensar cada parte de los procesos y reducir la pérdida y el desperdicio de alimentos desde su origen. Un trabajo donde participan muchas manos, todos sumando desde su trinchera. Reducir el desperdicio es posible. Tú también puedes ser parte del cambio. Súmate como aliado a este movimiento.
Lovely. Slow claps for that. And I'm going to stop sharing and end our formal presentation. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Allie and Anne. We have a question from Gabriella in the chat. She was wondering, which do you think should be a larger priority for hotels? Creating a more sustainable menu based on local ingredients or cutting the food waste slash composting?
Such a great question, Gabrielle. I was just on a call this morning when this was brought up. I think this is everything you can do, you should do. So let's just start. This is one of those, like, you got to figure out which ones you should do, but eventually you should do them all. And I'll start with the last one because you're always going to have food waste. It's an inevitable problem. As much as you can strive to prevent it and reduce it, it will occur. So you definitely do want to have a solution to handle that food waste, be it on-site composting, redirect into an off-site composting, anaerobic digester. You definitely want to make sure you have a solution for that. The local piece also really important because that's going to help, maybe not so much with food waste reduction, but carbon footprint reduction, community resiliency. But that's going to be a challenge. And the call I was on this morning was with a gentleman who got his started a hotel in Miami. They have one season. So what they grow locally is influenced by that factor. And so local ingredients really do need to be responsive to the environment where the location is. But the sustainable menu one is a really key one. And I think it's one we're starting to hear a bit more about and trying to draw a line between the health nutrition component of sustainable menus and the agricultural sustainability effect of choosing sustainable menus. And then that trickle down to that being a component to preventing food waste. So all of these are great tools. Where a hotel and a kitchen is really a function of kind of maybe their brand, their location, the kind of clientele they have. So it's not one per se, it's which one first, and then the rest should follow. So I know that's my answer on that one. Allie, I don't know if you have anything else to add or anybody on the NAFTA team has.
Well said, Anne. I couldn't agree more. I think how I would sum it up is food waste not being an afterthought, of it being front of mind. And I think this idea of doing everything can feel really overwhelming, but seeing where there are opportunities that are specific to the property, engaging the staff who might have ideas themselves, they're in it day to day, is really crucial. And then also the local piece is a way to build community partnerships in thinking of what you're procuring, but also in terms of diversion later on and donation or composting even. Great question.
Thank you, Allie and Anne. Emily McGinty also has a question for you. She's asking if you could share a little bit more about the difference in working with hotel ownership that already has value alignment and clear strategic interest in sustainability goals versus the different tools and skills that are required to get hotel leadership on board when sustainability goals aren't baked into their mission.
So I'm trying to think of the best way to answer that question, if I should come at it from the aligned hotels or the non-aligned hotels. I think it's similar. So the aligned hotels certainly recognize it, whether they're aligned because they have greenhouse gas reduction goals, water reduction goals, sustainable procurement goals. If that's already there, then the next leap to incorporate food waste reduction is it's a pretty simple and clear next step. If it wasn't one that preceded some of those others. For those where you're still trying to get support for any kind of sustainability, I think this is one where food waste is actually a really great entryway conversation because there's direct correlation to cost savings, there's direct correlation to food efficiency. It's very quantifiable. I think, Allie, correct me if I'm wrong, it was an 8 to 10 month ROI on that investment made by the hotel in Baja. There's data out there that talks that there's about a 7-to-1 return on investment when you invest in food waste reduction and prevention activities. So even if they don't believe in climate change, let's hope they do, but if they don't, you can talk to them on a dollar basis. And that ROI can be what opens up a conversation if sustainability is a taboo word or not a concept they're willing to lean into.
I feel like I'm on a political debate, like writing my own notes to just come in with, which is always fun, and my handwriting is questionable. But I think the values alignment and strategic interest is one thing, but then you have to go a step into implementation. And so having it be actionable. And I think for leadership, sometimes there's this competing certification requirements for their brand or other in trying to be part of this conscious sustainability group and really set themselves apart. And so, to champion and have it really sustain and embed at a property level, it's got to be operationalized to be with the staff. And so buy-in and the leadership piece is really important. And like Anne said, that's when you lead with the economic pitch and really try and underscore that. I think as WWF, we know and we come in with the environmental piece and we can speak to the social piece, but it's kind of weaving them all together so that it does go from values alignment, or I see these tools, I don't really know how to work them, to motivate that implementation.
And the Mosaic chapter at Cornell was wondering what key trends are currently shaping the food industry and how are they impacting sustainability efforts both positively and negatively?
I would say one that, and I see the next question on the GLP-1s, which I think is a factor, but it wasn't one that was going to be top of mind when I thought about answering this. But I do think a shift to what I also call sustainable diets, or plant-forward diets, I think is definitely we're seeing more of that. And the most tangible is you're starting to see brands and chains set goals. 25% of meals will be plant forward, 50% of meals, whatever it might be. So definitely that plant forward diet is definitely, I'm seeing more of it, particularly with quantifying goals around it. So obviously that's a positive. That is definitely a positive impact in terms of sustainability, particularly from a water and a sourcing standpoint. I would also say are a lot of conversation around how do you operationalize, as Allie said, food waste prevention and reduction, being smarter about um, event counts. So you prepare the right amount of food, being smarter about how quickly you put things out on a buffet, the quantity, smaller amounts at the beginning of a buffet, the bulk at the middle, tapering it at the end. So being smarter around how you manage to minimize food waste, which has a correlating cost to managing the total cost, but always protecting guest satisfaction. And so there's that trend toward trying to weave those two together. I would say I see a bit more of that more recently. And now I'd say you see things globally that I don't. So what are you seeing around the rest of the world? Because most of my answers are domestically driven. So I will add Allie for the rest of the world.
Oh man, that's a lot of weight. Um, I think I'm gonna go with something that might seem obvious, but is definitely driving trends in how people own and measure and track with data, and that's AI, that kind of technology. We're even seeing it with these hospitality waste programs. To give you an example, like Hotel Kitchen Toolkit has been around for almost 10 years. We have like a simple log that you can use a scale and track and measure to understand your baseline, because you need to understand the scale of the problem to think about solutions. But now with AI and application-based capabilities, we're seeing where you can take a picture of the trash can and it gets some kind of close enough understanding of your hot spots and the type and amount of waste in the different spots on the property. And so I think that's something that from farm loss and the way that we use global farm loss tool or other technologies to what we're doing with hotels and how they can have more advanced technology like the lean pass, like the winnows. But there will be these new products that come online and kind of disrupt those industries and create a more data-rich environment.
I believe Daniela has a follow-up question to this. She asks, would that also include highlighting the protein content in plant-forward options? With the recent push for proteins, I wonder how much is plant-forward, i.e. sustainable diets, adjusting?
A great question. I think I will share something later for this call I just had this morning, which is the chef that was speaking talked about, he knows it's a plant-forward diet. He knows it's a plant-forward dish, but to put it on the buffet as this is a plant-forward item actually detracts from the guest sort of taking it and eating it. So it's focusing on the flavor, the presentation. It's the richness of what's offered. Not that it is plant forward. It is just another amazing option alongside animal protein, non-plant forward. So distinguishing on the back end, there may be a goal around being a plant forward mix on a buffet or in an event, but it's not flagged as such. It's simply a non-meat, non-animal protein option that allows them to achieve as a hotel and a brand their goals while still offering an amazing guest experience that's more sustainable. Does that make sense the way I describe that? That's sort of like, we know it's vegan, but let's not say it's vegan. We know it's vegetarian, but we don't say it's vegetarian. We just say, look at this amazing, amazing, amazing beet hamburger, which is not actually ham, it's a beet burger. Please give it a try.
No notes.
Sam also had a question for you. Could you please speak more to the certification landscape hotel dining is facing and how this landscape impacts initial project implementation and ongoing iteration?
Allie, I have a little bit of this at a less so at the dining level of hotel certification. Do you have anything at the dining level before I speak to like the degree above?
I think degree above. But
Okay.
to what you said, with the waste initiatives, the pilots, I think you want to impact the employee operations and experience, but not to Anne's point, the guest experience. So trying to be subtle there, but also raise the level of consciousness for the hospitality sector. Go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, I'm going to reference a program I would hope most of you are familiar, which is Green Key Global, which is a standard hotel certification, sustainability certification that has a long history, sort of that spans an entire operation of a hotel, and has a longer history in water and energy, and has started to bring food and food waste into it. It is certainly a helpful driver, if at the very least a conversation opener, if not a driver to help inform, identify project implementation and investment. And so I think those certifications, hotels recognize the value of those because their customers will select them. The fact you are a Green Key certified hotel, the one across the street isn't. Guess what? I'm going to go to the Green Key certified because sustainability is important to me. But for the food and the food waste landscape, there is not a certificate globally or here in the United States. specific to that, though Green Key is starting to bring more online in their broader assessment and their broader certification. So if any of you guys want to find somebody out there with that and solve a certification for food waste, there's opportunity. It's just not a nut anybody's cracked yet. And Allie, unless you know something globally, there's not a nut yet being cracked here in the United States.
Oh, no global nuts. I mean, probably some, but yeah, and then just to speak to Hotel Kitchen Toolkit, a reminder that it doesn't align to a specific certification scheme. So there's room to adapt it or customize it. And I think that's another thing that we can say is those are global resources and some best practices to follow. It's a 16-week program, but we see groups take that, run with it for different durations, sprinkle in their own bits of creativity in terms of how they engage their staff. It allows them to select the solutions that they want to run with and then see how it will work. And what we're seeing in Baja is true from last year to this year is we need to be more context specific. So bringing in the local groups, building their capacity, and just bringing it down a level so that it can be implemented and really be sustainable.
Just like adding on to this, I think it's really cool because in our classes we've been like learning about how a lot of like Gen Zers and like younger generations really care about sustainability and they pick like a hotel that is more sustainable over a hotel that isn't just based on that difference point alone. So I think that having like that toolkit and being more sustainable definitely helps hotels with like profits and like attracting a certain, group of people. Transitioning more towards kind of like your personal journeys, I would love to learn more about kind of what brought you to Hotel Kitchen. So, Allie, can you tell us a little bit more about your own journey in this work?
Yes, and I feel like this kind of opens things up more broadly. And the way I've structured my personal journey story for a group in the past is how did I get here? And then skills and advice I can offer. And for how I got here, I think there's really three forks in the road, the bend in the path that I didn't see coming. It's who I knew, and it's what I have become known for in different capacities. And I think just from the get, I appreciate these reflective opportunities because it's kind of hard to see and feel the milestones from the kind of vantage point when you're doing the day-to-day work. So to get into it, the bends in the paths that I didn't see coming started in college. I think that happens for a lot of us. I had a degree change. Initially thought I would do speech pathology, turned into communication studies, and that was foundational and left me as a generalist without much specialty as I entered the workforce. And so my personal experience is built upon applying those core skills, adapting, learning fast, and sometimes getting over that hump or discomfort about what a job description on paper does or doesn't include, and then defining it by what I can contribute. And there was the transition from Athens, Georgia to Augusta, Georgia to Washington, D.C. That's not a route that I would have mapped for myself. And while I was in Augusta as a recent grad, trying to plan life but feeling overwhelmed, I was able to support the communication efforts of a local food system nonprofit through a Know Your Farmer social media campaign and a project coordinator for a Food is Medicine initiative that was with the local university. That was super cool. And then when I moved to DC, it was like, panic, get a big girl city job. And I came to DC as an IT recruiter. I hated it. I was doing that for about 2 months, and then I fell back on food systems. And I was a National Farmers Market Coalition communications intern. I had a stipend gig that I paired with dog walking and childcare. It was very busy. I was very fit. Ugh. And that became a comms associate role that I stepped into, still with the National Farmers Market Coalition, helping with the National Farmers Market Week planning with USDA, and then helping put on the first of its kind national event dedicated to farmers market networking. The next fork in the road is it's who I knew. And I experienced some of that in Augusta and when joining WWF after the National Farmers Market Coalition. Been with WWF now for 7 years. And I think network does matter when you're starting out, and sometimes your in comes from your personal network that then expands your professional one. And leaning in, especially early on, to that support, advice, direction, and opportunities can lead to some lovely planned and unplanned opportunities. And so then it's what you become known for. I started at WWF as a special assistant for our senior vice president of freshwater and food. And once I got established, I saw the role expand to something that resembled a team coordinator. And a lot of that comes with like the yes man, right? Owning the core role functions, but gaining insights and experiences. Had some special projects like developing a UN Water Week video, supporting some really cool technical freshwater workshops, international grassland grazing management, to now focusing on food loss and waste. And that has really been amazing. And I've been able to work with an incredibly diverse group of colleagues and see amazing places. And that brings us full circle to coordinating global food loss and waste projects. And then last piece, the skills and advice that I have to offer is rewiring discomfort as growth. I think for all of us, being uncomfortable is hard, but it's crucial to our development to lean into. Interpersonal skills are core skills. You hear a lot about the technical side, but soft skills are next level, especially in our hybrid and virtual work realities. Figuring out your systems and ways of working and learning. Multiple languages. That's my Achilles heel right now as we work in Latin American countries, is that I'm not fluent in Spanish. My Puerto Rican mama and I took Latin, but thankfully tech bridges the gaps, but it really helps you connect with people. And then the other two, seem simple, but there's a lot of need to be self-motivated and dialed in for, is taking initiative and staying curious. And then I think the last one I'll say is giving yourself grace where and when you can. There's a lot happening in the world. There's a lot that you're lining up for yourself right now. So celebrate your wins and be kind to yourselves. And drop in the mic.
Oh, goodness, Allie, what a great story. And I don't often get to hear my coworker story, so this is just a thrill for me to even hear. But I think Allie makes a good point about the pause of reflection, that this is a gift to her and I. But I think for each of you, that is actually a very powerful tool to do, is to pause and reflect. And am I comfortable doing the work? Where can I lean into the discomfort? Where is there a growth opportunity? Where is there something I should step back from because it's actually not bringing me joy or not bringing me satisfaction? So just an exercise like this embedded into your sort of regular annual review, not because your boss is reviewing you, because you're reviewing yourself and reflecting on yourself, I think is a very, very valuable exercise. And I would say it's one, had I done, I might have moved around a little more quickly. I would have recognized opportunities or needs to move on. I was in a world when I started my career, you climbed the ladder. It was vertical. It was a single straight line through. And after quite a while, I realized I am on some kind of wacky jungle gym. There is no straight line. Sometimes I go down, sometimes I go over. So I think recognizing that advancement is not linear, and that it's about opportunity. And that opportunity may not look like what you expected, but as long as it's feeding your ability to grow yourself with a soft skill, a hard skill, a knowledge, so that you are able to continue to add value to the community to which you are in service. It's kind of a filter. And I think I'm at the point where I'm looking through a filter for those opportunities that allow me to grow as an individual, contribute to the growth of a community, contribute to the growth of an organization, and in the case of sustainability, contribute to the sustenance of our wider community and of our planet. And so those kind of things are independent so much of the 9 to 5 responsibilities, is about the flavor of the responsibilities I have. So it's about knowing yourself and knowing what's important. because I couldn't give you all the turns because I don't even want to look back on that map. I just know there were a lot of turns, but I do know that where I'm at and I think about where I was, I wish the self-reflection and the identifying the aspects that were a priority versus the job title, I think I would have landed on a much happier through path, regardless if it was an up and down or a side to side or sometimes falling off that jungle gym and getting back on. So I will leave you with that. Sort of be reflective as you think about your career and the things that excite you.
I had a question for Allie. You mentioned that you had like a communications degree, but now you work in, food sustainability and food systems. I was just wondering, like, how did you go about like building expertise in food systems and like environmental issues without like having that kind of traditional background? And if you had like any challenges that you had to overcome?
Great question, Aya. And I think it's something that I'm constantly doing. And I think what's core to communications and where I excel allows me to translate that really technical, crunchy understanding for myself and then for others, and just get a sense of what format that needs to be in. Um, WWF is such a technically diverse organization. I think we have 700 staff. We're organized programmatically by specific goals like wildlife, climate, food, forests, freshwater. I might be missing one. But then there's such a rich community helping support and drive that work in terms of marketing and communications, like a true machine for raising funds and engaging folks. And a lot of the teams that maybe don't look like traditional conservationists, but I think we all are, and we have a piece of translating and making that impact. And so for me, I think it is kind of as this story translator, and not that I'm a farmer out in the field or doing the technical work. I've had some experiences that bring me out to the field where I get to measure for food loss, and I'm super fortunate. But I think it's gleaning that experience from others and making it shine where I stand in.
Thank you. I also had a question for Ange. You talked a lot about like your transition and finding purpose in your work. I was wondering like at what point did you start to feel confident in like your own professional identity and like what contributed to that?
Let's first of all, I don't like imposter syndrome, question myself every day. So I'm not going to present myself as somebody who's got it dialed. But I think leaning into that discomfort, to quote Allie again, and being okay with asking questions, being okay putting forward a question or an idea, because you're like, everybody's coming from different perspectives. And that's where the creative solutions come from, the new approaches come from. I remember interviewing some graduates fresh out of college in a role I had previously where we were hiring just like boom, right out of school. And the crazy intersections they had in their studies was just, it was refreshing. When I finished university, it was straight again, the latter, straight and narrow. You took only poli-sci classes, you took only econ classes, and you specialize. These graduates were coming out with, I did poli-sci and neurocognitive recognition coursework. And you're like, what the heck? But that brought a real rich variety to how they thought about problems and how they thought about solutions. And if you recognize everybody brings a creative intersection, nobody's an imposter. Everybody brings value because everyone's perspective is unique. So I think thinking about not what do I not have, it's what do I have that nobody else at the table has, and that's the value I can bring. I see some parts. Okay, good. Yeah. So yeah. And expert doesn't take long. Like I've only been in this space about 2.5 years. But it's Hotel Kitchen's only been around less than 10. Relative to Hotel Kitchen, I'm not that much older, which means I'm not that much older or not much that younger than the investment in the space. Sustainability is still very nascent. Maybe not from y'all's perspective, but certainly from my career's perspective. So whether somebody's been doing it for 30 years or 3 years, the space is still growing and evolving. And so just because you're young doesn't mean you don't know something that somebody who's been here longer. So thinking about don't let age, don't let experience, don't let tenure get in the way. Show up.
Emily had a question for you in the chat. She was wondering, how do you navigate working intergenerationally and valuing everyone's different perspectives? Because it seems like there's a lot of like great exposure to age mate peers, younger gens, and also older generations.
Allie, you want me to go first on that one? Yeah. Um, I would say that what the gift I had is I spent a good portion of my early career working and living outside the United States, which forced not intergenerational perspective management, but intercultural. And I think that was kind of foundational where I didn't have a choice. I had to lean into why do they say it the way they do it? Why do they do it the way they do it? And it just inherently embeds a openness and a receptivity and a patience and grace that just has, for me at least, has translated as I've gone into intergenerational differences, different educational backgrounds, different life experience backgrounds. Um, Treat it like you're lost in a foreign country, you don't speak the language. If you go into the office every day like that, you're probably going to be okay and be able to have a conversation regardless of age, experience, or role.
Well said, Anne. And I think um, I'm going about this the same way of saying it's less about intergenerational differences than, and maybe where that shows up is communication or influence styles. So trying to be able to really get to the meat and understand their perspectives is a thing. But I think there's so many different layers that kind of get in between that. Are you in person? Are you virtual? Are you hybrid? Tech has a large piece of that. And I think um, for me, there are cultural differences that I've had to acknowledge and adjust the way that I learn or I communicate. Um, I'll give the example of working in Indonesia. I tune in twice a month, Thursdays, 9 p.m. ET, right when I get the kids to sleep. My brain wants to slow. And we've had to pivot and adjust the way that we share an agenda and get on the same page because we have a lot of time zones and like a difference in direct versus a little bit more of like passive communication styles. The way and details of reporting and the urgency are very US based. And so I think stepping back and assessing a little bit more of the bigger picture, not just age, but like where that person's coming from, what is influencing them, and how are they motivated can help you relate with anyone in the workspace.
And I think Gabriella also had a question for you guys. If someone wanted to get involved with your work, do you have any career options or job listings available? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know what we have at WWF. As Ellie said, it's a large organization, so just check the job boards. But what I would say is looking for roles in sustainability. And I know when I started, it was like this is not like looking for a job as a CPA. There is no standard title, there is no standard job description. But I think at this juncture, particularly in hospitality, every role should have sustainability built into it. Every location should have sustainability built into it. So finding a role, maybe it's on the food and beverage team, maybe it's in housekeeping, it could be any role within hospitality. And what you bring, and this is that interesting intersection, you bring a sustainability lens to that role, and that could manifest in you starting up a green team that doesn't exist there at the time, or leaning into a special project. So when looking for roles, it doesn't have to have a sustainability title or job description. It could be a role where you bring sustainability and the value that sustainability brings to the organization. So I just want to plug that because I think we kind of get caught up in finding the perfect title, but sometimes it's find the work and then bring your value to the table. For WWF, I'm like, look at our listings. I know, Ellie, maybe I work remote. I don't have half the time. I don't even know what the rest of WWF is doing. So job boards, and then reach out to us if you see something of interest. I think Allie and I would be more than willing to make some connections there.
Absolutely. Great suggestion on just carving out your piece of sustainability in whatever role and place that is. I think in terms of opportunities for those early in their conservation or sustainable journeys. We do have, it's on its third year, a bridge internship that runs during the summers. I think this one, we've placed all of those, but essentially the different program teams figure out what is a learning opportunity and need, and it's posted all at the same time. And so I think it was like February or March that it's on the job board, and you'll see it as a paid internship opportunity that can be remote, it can be based in DC, it can be a mix. So that's been a really great program that we've started. And then just thinking about something that you can do in this specific time in honor of Earth Day and Earth Hour is you can log an hour for Earth through this WWF program. It provides a list depending on your interests. I think this is just a time of the year that we can think about giving back to nature and being immersed in it.
This has been so insightful. Thank you, Anne and Allie, for sharing a bit about your work and your own paths within it. We really appreciate your time with us today. We also want to encourage all of you to come to the last episode of our Spring 2026 season of Finding Your Future in Food Systems. On Wednesday, May 6th, we will feature Rachel Bryce of Land for Good, Tommy Bass of Montana State University Extension, and Janelle Hutchinson of the Food Finance Institute. If you'd like to learn more about roles in farmland access, farmer and rancher support, and farm and food business development, please attend. The registration link is in the chat. And to conclude, on the behalf of our entire productions team here at NAFSN, including Natalie, Kim, Vivian, Ari, Audrey, Wendy, Daniela, Jeffrey, Heba, Durjoy, and myself and Nora, we'd like to thank you for being here with us this evening and hope to see you again on May 6th.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks for the opportunity. Good luck, everyone.
You've been listening to Finding Your Future in Food Systems, produced by the North American Food Systems Network. To learn more about our professional development opportunities, visit foodsystemsnetwork.org.